today we're going to change a thermostat on a Stilo 2.4. Now, this thermostat on this car is built into, well, it's already in its surround basically, so you can't just pop it out and put the new one in. You have to physically remove the old one, so the whole assembly. So here's the new thermostat. Yeah, if you look through here, you can see there's the sort of thermostat that you might recognise from most cars, and it's, as I say, built into this. So we need to change this whole part, which on this car, as you can see, is hidden down there. Now, to get to that, we're going to have to remove everything here. So we're going to have to remove that pipe to the airbox. I'm also going to remove my whole battery and the tray, just to give me that whole area on the right-hand side here to work. Now, some people would say that there's an easier way of getting to this than removing everything, but I'm going to show you the reason why I'm doing this in a moment. But I'm going to remove the whole cover. So this plastic cover here on top of the rocker, I'm going to take that off, and I'll show you why in a minute, because obviously one of the priorities we've got to do here is drain the coolant. Now, it's a bit annoying for me because I've just had new coolant put in this car, so I've just had to buy myself another 5 litres, but yeah, the worst things happen at sea. Okay, so the cover's off. Obviously just make sure you're putting your cap back on there, because that actually obviously goes through the cover, so you do have to remove that to take the cover off, but I'll just put that back on there to stop any dust or water going in where I don't want it. Now, what I've got on this one, I've got a pipe here at the front. Well, we've all got that obviously, but what I've got is I've got a Jubilee clip on there because I've actually removed it before. Now, what I'm going to show you later on in this is that obviously some of these original factory clips that you can see there are very difficult to remove. I replace all of mine with Jubilee clips just purely because it's just easier in the future to remove. So I'm going to take that off and drain the water, because as you can see at the moment in my bottle there, I've got a full level of coolant. So when I remove that, I expect that to drain, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've loosened the Jubilee clip off that pipe, and I've had this one off many times before. Now obviously, as you can see, there isn't really much down there that the water can affect that wouldn't normally get wet anyway, so this is probably the best way of doing things. I'm just going to prise that pipe off as sort of easily as I can. As you can see there, it is actually leaking out now. But obviously you don't want to damage any of the rubber, and eventually it's slowly going down now. Okay, there we go. The reason I'm doing that, of course, is because I don't want all the water to come pouring out when I remove this thermostat from here. So it's just draining at the moment down onto my underneath of the car there. One recommendation, I would possibly, if you can, don't run the car prior to this, but unfortunately I had to run mine because I needed to get it. Well, I've got a few cars that normally sit on this driveway, so I've had to move everything around a bit, which has warmed it up. Ideally, you want it cold, but to be honest, now it's all drained out, we should be fairly safe. Bottle is empty. Obviously, what we can do just to encourage the drainage there, make sure there's no suction. You'll be able to see now that the bottle is empty. I'm actually going to remove this bottle and take advantage of this because I'm going to give it a good old clean, because as you can see, over the years, there's been a bit of Radweld poured in there. So we just want to clean out all the debris in there. Okay, now, removing the battery tray is fairly easy. You've got one bolt here at the back, which you need to undo to pull it out. And then if we lift up this plastic cover here, you'll see there's a bolt down the side there, and there's a bolt down the other side there. Now, as you can see, I've given this a bit of hammerite in the past. Not too beautiful, I know, but you can't really see it, but it was rusting away, and I don't know how easy these are going to be to get now. So anyway, I'm just going to unbolt that now off the camera, and I'll come back to you. Okay, now I've just removed my battery. I'm just going to take advantage of the fact that I've actually got a 78 or 80 amp hour battery in this car, which I know is oversized. Normally, I think they came with either 60 or 70. I find personally, so just a bit of reference for you, that does fit. It's a little bit large for the tray, but it does fit in there quite nicely, really, and it just gives the car a little bit more, well, a few more amp hours, really, just to help it tick over, because I do find with this car, if the battery gets low, you get all sorts of electrical issues. Okay, so the tray is removed. Now we need to remove the air pipe. On mine, again, relatively easy to do. Taking off these clips here. That one there actually pulls off already on mine. Might do on yours as well. Now, as you can see, we're really getting a good view now of this thermostat. Okay. Now there are some electronics down here, by the way. So what I'd recommend is you tuck those out the way, purely because there could still be some water in the system when we remove this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try and remove some of these pipes, and I say try because it isn't an easy job, okay? What I've been told with these, I haven't done one yet before, but you can see there's a little slot in there, and I understand if you prise those open it can release, but again, not too sure how easy it is. Giving it a go. And what appears to happen now is you can pull up that side, okay, and then you can use the screwdriver and pull up the other side, and then as you can see there isn't actually anything holding that on anymore, so we should be able to, there we go, take it off. As I say, been on there a long time, of course, so I haven't ever changed this before, so I've had the car for quite a few years. There we go. Seems easy, but what we don't know is how easy it's going to be to take this pipe off now. But first of all, let's take all the clips off. So I'm going to do the same with all of them. Unfortunately, I can't video it all as I'm going, obviously, because it's a bit awkward. But I'm going to take all the rest of them off, and then I'll come back to you. The pipe's off to some extent. This one back here, as you can see, I've managed to remove the clip, but it is still sort of on there because it's very tight, and the one at the back as well. But what I'm thinking is, once these are out and the thermostat's loose, it'll pull off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the thermostat now. Now, what I might need to do is get a longer reach for the bottom one, so I've got an extension bar that I can attach a little bit easier. I must admit, I was making it quite hard for myself. What you don't want to do is hit your hand as well on this thing, because I've already done that once. So, there we go. Just going to remove that bolt there. We can remove it entirely. I don't see much of a problem with removing them all together on their own, rather than loosening them in turn, so, because it's still on there pretty hard, you know. There we go, it's our top bolt. Now, obviously what I've done is I've used the old thermostat to work out what there is. So I can tell there's another bolt just at the bottom, which is probably going to be the hardest one to reach, but we'll give it a go. Managed to do it, so let's see if we can loosen it off, shall we? Yes, there we go. So what was the first bit, isn't it? I'm actually just using the socket now by hand, because it is actually really loose. It's just that first bit that was holding it in. Do that up a bit tighter when I put the new one on. As you can see, most plastic parts of this car are perishing away. You can see this pipe here. Put a bit of insulation around that one once I've finished. Okay, great. So now it should be loose. There we go. So it's pulling away from the car there. Don't worry about the seal, by the way, because the seal is provided, so you get a new one. But as you can see, by draining the water previously, we now don't have to worry about leakage over this side of the car, because obviously I've got my air box down there and stuff, which I certainly don't want to fill up with water. So I'm just going to remove that from there. So removed. You can see there, obviously there is a little bit of build up there, but it's not too bad actually. I'm quite impressed about how clean that is. So I managed to get all of this off. That is actually a new pipe. It started leaking at the back there a little while back, so I've had to change that. But as you can see, not too bad, not too wet. So what I'm going to do now is just take that seal off. We need to be incredibly careful here that we don't get anything inside there. Now what I'm going to suggest now is that we give that a good old clean before we put everything back together. Just obviously always be incredibly careful that you don't get any in there, because I mean it's not going to do too much harm I suppose, but we don't really want to get anything in there. But what I'm going to do is concentrate on pulling away from the gap when I'm doing this, rather than towards, and then as you can see we're just getting it off but without getting any in the inside there. Okay, sorry, I was moving the camera the wrong way for you. There you go. So just give it a good old clean down so it's smooth, because we don't want any leaks to occur once we've got this back on. It's actually relatively smooth on this car, which is good. Give it a little bit of a wet and dry, sort of very smooth. Now this is really smooth. This is 5000 grip. I'm just doing that as well because call me paranoid, but I just don't want any issues once I've had all this fitted back together. So there we go. So now we can probably give it another wipe round. Just make sure there's nothing on the inside there, which there isn't. You're going to find the rubber is sort of stretched over it, but they do provide that, okay? But one of the priorities here, before we fit the thermostat, as you can see, there's a hole there. That is our little temperature probe, which, if you look, is still fitted there. Now I'm not actually changing mine, some people suggest that you should. I'm just going to give it a good clean up. So I've put the new seal in there where it's supposed to sit, and I've obviously put the probe on there. You can kind of see, can't you? Because it's obviously not as new as the as the other part, but it will do. I cleaned it up, so the probe's actually really nice and clean. So yep, going to reassemble that now back onto the car. So let's see how we get on. Doing the last bolt up here, making sure at all times that I can see that seal pressing in the right place. Okay. And at the moment it looks like it's still in there, so that's good. It's a bit of a hit and miss actually, because what happened was where they put the rubber over, as you saw it before, how they had it in storage, it's actually stretched the rubber slightly, so you actually ended up with a larger ring than what should be there, you know. Okay, so I'm all back together, all the pipes back together of course, and the airflow pipe here of course from the air filter. So all I'm going to do now is finish off by, I'm going to remove my bottle and give it a clean out before I refill it with coolant. So it's altogether successful. Now you might be asking, why did I change it? Which would be a pretty good question. I changed it because the level inside the car was, so when the car was running, sorry, let me explain. When the car was running, this would never sit in the middle. It'd always sit just below, and then if I was in traffic, then you'd see it go back to the middle. So when I was going along, it would never regulate its temperature properly. It was always too cold, really. So I'm going to see what happens now.